objective truth. Values for sale. In these challenging times, do we really know what's going on? How are we influenced by the media, politics, and the economy? Freedom of expression. Artistic forms to speak out about what isn't and what should be. Culture appears to have become key in our interconnected world, which is made up of so many ethnically diverse societies. But it is also riddled by conflicts associated with religion, ethnicity, and ethical values. Art, music, and satire. How much power do they have to join people together and tear down walls? Arts and culture in times of crisis. Join the discussion here at the Global Media Forum 2016.
Please give a warm hello to our moderator, Katie Musa.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to this very exciting panel on how arts and culture can foster dialogue and bring about political change. I'm very glad to see all of you here this morning. As you heard, my name's Kate Musa. I host Deutsche Welle's German music program Pop Export, and I'm also an editor in our culture section. Now, you've already seen and heard many of our guests here this morning, earlier this week at the Global Media Forum, but I'd like to introduce them to you anyways. Here, pianist Ayham Ahmed is a Palestinian refugee who grew up in Syria. He went on to study music in Syria until civil war swept over the country and the Islamic State invaded the camp where he was staying. Ayham chose to remain there and not flee, and instead he took his piano out onto the street and performed for the people there. And I'm sure many of you have already seen the moving images of him doing that have been on the internet. When the danger increased, he did decide to embark on the long journey to Germany. However, where he's since become quite the media star. And however, despite his success here in Germany, his biggest wish has remained unfulfilled, and that is to bring his family over from Syria. Graffiti artist Amar Abu Bakr is joining us today from Cairo, and I'm sure most of you have already seen the amazing mural he's painted for us in the past couple of days outside the entrance to this building. Now, many of his works deal with the Egyptian revolution of 2011. He also touches on Egyptian history and Islamic culture in his works, and some of his most famous murals can be found on the Mohammed Mahmoud Street in Cairo, near where the revolution broke out in 2011. Now, he was, as he told me, an assistant professor at the Luxor Institute of Fine Arts, where he also studied, but left that position in 2011 when the revolution broke out to, as he put it in an interview, report on the revolution by using the city's walls as a newspaper. So I'm interested in hearing more about that. Ahmed al-Bashir is a comedian and television host from Iraq and the host of the Al-Bashir Show. His show has been viewed online more than, as I just found out, 50 million times. It's now being broadcast on Deutsche Welle as well. Now, Ahmed uses political satire to take the corrupt regime in Iraq, as well as religious leaders and militant groups like the Islamic State, to task. He can laugh, but he himself is no stranger to tragedy. A number of his relatives have been killed by militants, and he himself spent 6 weeks in captivity. His response to that tragedy is satire. Sami Deluxe is one of the most successful rappers and music producers to come out of Germany. It's fantastic to have you here this morning. And Sami is celebrating this year 20 years on stage in his career by bringing out his 9th studio album. He teams up very frequently with other rappers and musicians like Fetsum, who I'll get to in a moment, to speak out against racism and in favor of tolerance and integration in Germany. He's also a very vocal critic of the system on many of his albums, and the most recent song that comes to mind is Klopapier. I would encourage you to look that up on YouTube after this session as well. Sami supports underprivileged youths and works towards raising awareness for a variety of other issues, including AIDS and illiteracy as well. Berlin-based singer Fetsum Sebhat was born in Cairo to parents who were refugees from Eritrea. He also lived in Italy before coming to Germany, so has a number of experiences in different cultures. And he told Deutsche Welle in an interview for the Melting Pop series that we had a while back on Pop Export that growing up multiculturally means you have to take responsibility and work as a mediator in society. And that's exactly what we're talking about here today. Fetzum's most recent album is called Color of Hope, and he describes his sound as a vivid mix of soul, reggae, Monday music from Mali, folk, rock, and hip-hop. So quite a lot going on there. Thank you very much for joining us today. So have a seat here. Now, all of you, I'm presuming, began creating your art before it became a vehicle to communicate a message. So I want to know, what was the moment or the experience when you felt that burden, that you want to use your work, your art, to change? Let's start with you, Sammy.
Wow. Well, when I started rapping, at that time, rap was very political. All my influences and my big the inspirations that I looked up to were guys like Public Enemy, who used their music as they described it. Actually, the rapper of Public Enemy, Chuck D, described hip hop as the black CNN. So just like the newspaper for the ghetto mainly. And in Germany, I didn't grow up in the ghetto, but I still felt that urge, like when I started writing in German, to also use that vehicle, you know, to transport a message. And every song was kind of like a essay for school, you know, like this song is against racism and this song is against people polluting the sea, and you know, every song had a topic. And in the beginning, that was very important for me. After that, it was also important to just get into the music more, you know, because if you just deal with your head and it's music, it also doesn't work. So after that, I also had to learn how to write songs that just work live, that are not a preaching moment, but just fun and wordplay and, you know, a lot of rhythmic in my flow.
And I'm curious to know, your switch from English to German, was that also a move for you in using your music more as a communication tool?
I started rapping when I was living in England for half a year in '91, when I was like a young teenager. And then when I came back to Germany, I found out about German rap. And after a while, that was then, yeah, my choice.
Path.
Yeah.
Fetzum, what was the moment when you realized you can use your music to change, and you felt the burden to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you already mentioned my biography, so it's implemented, you know. So basically, I'm a late bloomer in music. I studied political science first, and I really decided late to follow music as a professional thing, so at the age of 24, 25. And of course, I mean, like, music works amazingly as entertainment, but if you have a certain biography and you feel like, okay, you want to mediate too, or you need to, because you're basically looking at a world that has a lot of challenges, music has the perfect power to build bridges, so of course I need to.
Well, we're still talking about music. I'll turn to Iham. What for you was the moment? Of course, you were living in Syria, which was facing incredible destruction and threats. But I'm sure there are many other musicians in Syria as well. So how for you did that burden come about, that desire to use your music for change?
Yeah, I am siege in Yarmouk camp 3 years, the people dying from hunger and without water there. What I can make, I need to change anything. Maybe can change with music, not classical music. I go to university, take it Rachmaninoff and Chopin, and I have cutting in my finger from bomb. What I can make, it's good to change something with the children and some song, small motif, and all the children in the street were laughing and made claps. I don't need anything, only I need to follow my lovely things in my heart and see the children laughing and smiling. I don't need to make it a revolution, and I don't need to make it any things coming from the moon. Only I need to play my piano in the street, in the home, because the music coming with the blood.
So for you, it was the reaction that you were getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Amar, tell us. Of course, much of your work is tied to the revolution, but perhaps there was a moment or a situation where you found you must go forward with your art in that way.
Sorry about my language. Maybe I ask for translation.
Your English is great. No excuses.
Yes, before the revolution, actually, I was always thinking about what is the job of the artist, actually, in a country like Egypt. It's really more than 30 or 40 years, the regime or the Islamist or however, they don't care about the identity, the culture, and they try to destroy everything. And for me as an artist, and I study art, and I was assistant professor, I was always asking myself what I was going to do. I would go to paint on canvas, and then I would go to search about art dealer to just sell my painting, and that's it. And I don't feel this, but since the revolution started, I didn't think, I just went to the street. For me, the revolution to be in the street, that's it. It's to just be together, you don't need any wall or any dealer. He can show your work. You can just present your work in the street, or independent what you want to say. It's a message or information or just experience you're sharing with the people.
So
work on layers.
For you,
together.
the street is your museum.
It should be. Yeah, because we don't trust museum now.
Ahmed.
For me, it was on February 2011 when a suicide bomber attacked us and killed 7 of my friends on that day. At that day, when I wake up after the explosion, I was asking myself, what did I do for my country? What did I do for my people? If I'm dead now, is anyone going to remember me for anything that I did in my life? I was just correspondent, doing nothing, doing like his classic work. And then I decided to do something different and tell the people the truth, the whole truth. I lost my father, I lost my brother, I lost my cousin and my uncle in Iraq because of the wars between militias and ISIS and Al-Qaeda was before. So I just want the people to choose right so we don't lose more of our relatives. That's why when I started to decide what should I do now, what should I do next to be a different person, it was just taking the news and making fun of the news of what's happening. If I make fun of a stupid a governor or a stupid minister or maybe a parliament member doing sectarian things inside Iraq, I think he will change his behavior. Maybe people will not elect him anymore to do these things again. So maybe our situation will be better. So I started that on 2012. I had a small show. It was on YouTube. I just take the news from the satellite channels and make fun of everything that happened in the country. So people start to trust me, and people start to take the information from the show. And of course, the classic way of dealing with the news in Iraq and in all Middle East, it's very classic. And of course, in Egypt and Syria, they know. It's very classic and funny how the media is dealing with everything. You feel like you're stupid. You're just looking for. It's not what's happening in the street. Why it's all wrong, and it's all classic and boring. So I evoluted, let's say, and reached the show of Al-Bashir show now, and it's very popular in Iraq. And
but
people
how,
take the news from it.
I mean, you're talking about incredible tragedies of losing people who are very close to you. How can you approach these issues with humor?
Okay, look.
I mean, what inside of you brings you to do that?
In Middle East, it's not personal, but it's in Middle East. When you want to hurt someone, you make fun of him.
Okay.
You don't attack him. When you make fun of him, he will get hurt more than you just hit him in the face. So I used that way, and it was very effective. There's a lot of responsibles in government, in Iraqi government, were resigned because we made fun of them in the show. A lot of parliament members stopped talking about sectarian in TV because we made fun of them. And a lot of them wouldn't show on TV even, so that they're afraid that we take them in the show and make fun of them.
Well, that's a literal example of political change here that what we're talking about today, of how you can actually change a government with a TV show like that, right? And we're talking about dialogue, and I have mentioned earlier that it was really moving the people in the street, I think many of them are children, that inspires you to keep going. And so from politicians to children in the street, I'm wondering from the others of you, who is your audience? Who are you speaking with to engage in that dialogue in order to bring about change? Fetsam, who do you think of when you go and write a song or are standing on stage?
Basically, it depends. I mean, you can think of a certain character, as you said. You might think of a politician. You might think of something of a special, the thing that raised some kind of emotions. But even going further, we just had a great festival in Berlin at the Waldbühne 2 weeks ago, and for 15
Which you
months,
organized, by the
which
way,
I
yeah.
organized, yeah. So, and we had 19 bands. Sammy was there too, and we basically targeted an issue to raise money on the one hand, for children in war zones and and child refugees. And for 15 months, basically, we were told that it's not a good situation right now politically to get engaged in a festival like this because media won't cover it. People are afraid right now. And once we started to sell tickets, within 3 weeks, we sold out the Waldbühne with 22,000 people.
Wow.
So, and this is without big media coverage. So I said, like, hey, it's interesting because there might be a need within the people. So actually, we're thinking of everybody, And when I think of people, I really think of children, I think of women, I think of men, because there are so many things, basic needs that we all have, And what we need to do is create platforms where people can gather and get together like here and talk about certain issues. And we learn from people from Palestine, from Egypt, from Iraq, people who are third culture like us growing up here in Germany but having roots somewhere else. So I think like the dialogue has to be opened with everything. Music is a fantastic platform. Humor maybe is as strong as music, And so we have to think of everybody doing what we do. Yeah.
Sammy, do you sing for Angela Merkel?
No, not really. I mentioned her a few times.
Yeah.
I don't really have a specific audience in mind all the time because not all the time my music has to have a big message. Sometimes it's just music, sometimes it's just wordplay. But when I make songs, like on my new album, I have this song called Mimimi. This is like the sticker. Ein Herz für Mimimi, a heart for Mimimi, and Mimimi stands for Mitbürger mit Migrationshintergrund, which means like citizen with a migration background, which is like a super technical term when you spell it out, the whole word. But then when you say Mimimi, it's like really cute and funny, Like,
Brilliant.
instead of saying Ausländer and Flüchtlinge and all these words that just, scare people off now, I thought it would be kind of also, like a funny gesture to introduce a new word. And so on my Facebook and Instagram, a lot of people say, hey, Sammy, I'm a mimimi, and thank you for giving me this word, and this new identity, and because it feels better than... thank you. Because it just feels better than Ausländer, and, it's so strange how we let the outer world decide what we call ourselves, At some point, I was calling myself halb schwarz, I'm half black. What the fuck is that, I think it's good to shape our own culture and our own view, and I think it's great. It was so inspiring what you just said, because a lot of times, we confront ourselves with the question, how can media affect change in the world, and that's the best way to do media, if you just do it yourself, and just start on YouTube and just convey your own message and create a platform till you get heard, and then maybe TV stations pick up on it, because the way that TV is programmed over here is like, it's not for the intellectual cause, it's mainly entertainment and a lot of dumbing down, and so I really respect everything that's just thought-provoking.
Yeah. Great. Aman, I want to know from you, where does dialogue, or when does dialogue become political change? You paint for in public situations for anyone who walks by in Cairo on the street, but how does that translate into true change?
No, I can't promise it will going to change something. But it's for me it's enough the dialogue between the artist and the people they pass by in the street. Sometimes they can tag something on the top of the graffiti or the top of the mirror. Sometimes they can paste something behind me to continue the dialogue. Sometimes they refuse their graffiti and then they take it out and then I come back again and put the heads more and then they put another color. And sometimes it's dialogue between even the people, they are not in your part, you know? And that's also, it's interesting for me.
I want to know now, most of you have experiences creating and sharing your art in many different countries. I want to know, since our reception of art and culture is very much dependent on the culture we come from, how your work is perceived differently in different countries. You've played in Syria and you're playing now in Germany. What's different about how people receive your art?
Yeah, when I play in Syria, Mozart and Chopin and Rachmaninoff in my Yarmouk camp, it's camp for refugee, Palestinian refugee born in Syria. My friend talked to me, come to make it football, why you make it a crazy thing, blah, 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 blah. And I remember my friend, he make a blah, 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 what this? You make it نسم علينا الهواء, it's beautiful then, yes. And I remember another friend when I am small, he talked, make it joke under the window because I play Chopin. And he don't understand a lot about Chopin.
So the European
in
classical
Europa, I can play.
yes,
I can play my classic music in Syria and mixing with Arabic music. It's very good line, and I can complete some things with what I begin in the street. I begin with make it my music, my culture, with some vocal and piano, and mixing with major and minor, and a lot of maqam. We have it maqam in his name Hijaz in Syria. It's very in Middle East. We mixing with minor and it's new things and beautiful audience. And I don't go out of Deutschland because I am refugee. Take the paper from only 1 month ago.
But how do
I see the
Germans
people.
respond?
Yes, I
how
see.
do Germans respond when you play and you sing? We heard on Monday a fantastic example. What's the response in Germany to your music?
Talk to me. It's good. You have to complete, and it's beautiful to make it mixing. The people need some things new, and these things what we need to change. Maybe we will with the music we can change some things.
Ahmed, you were telling me earlier that at the beginning it wasn't the Iraqis who are interested in your show. You were getting more attention outside. So how was the response different in different countries?
First, I have a suggestion. You should guys make a song together.
There we go.
With beanies and piano. To be different. First of all, Iraqis didn't accept the humor, didn't accept that you make fun of like prime minister. It was like, do you make fun of the Iraqi prime minister that you're making fun of Iraq? Do you know that? So they didn't accept.
Yes.
He understands that. Yeah, it's the same. So it was very hard for us until they accept how the people, the humor and the satire is very important for them. We had correspondent from Europe, from America. They came and they understood how it is important for the humor to be like free and should be free all the time. So we had, before the Iraqi audience, we had European audience. It was bigger than the Iraqi audience. They always demanded subtitles for our show. Like, we want to see what's going on in your countries. We want to see how do you make jokes for them. That's why we don't make jokes in English. We were very bad in that. We're still in Arabic.
But what was the turning point for the Iraqi audience?
The turning point when they saw that the humor can make a change, and the humor it's a best way, and it's not like the classic way that all the 40 stations in Iraq using, and it's very boring. They started to watch the humor, and but first they fought us like very much, especially our audience first, and then they understood how much it's important, and they started to watch, and they started to know the truth from the show, from our show.
Is it now on TV or still?
Yes, no, on TV.
great.
It's on Deutsche Welle.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Okay.
here.
Welcome.
I have someone to know.
Now, a number of you have created or are continuing to create your art in the midst of fear. And I'm directing this question toward Amar. You've created your art in the midst of revolution when it's a very dangerous situation to be doing what you're doing. How does fear impact your work or your approach to your work?
First, I was lucky to be in this moment, actually. I didn't look. Not in jail. Yeah, thanks God I'm here.
Yeah.
Also not in jail because most of our friends, they are in jail now. More than 40,000 from the young generation, they are in jail during this system. But I mean, when I tried to work in Muhammad Mahmoud Street, it was the street of the fight. Like we have Tahrir Square and we have the Ministry of Interior. And always the people, they try to arrive to demonstrate front of the Ministry of Interior. And they will use this street. Of course, this street, they kill a lot of people in this street. They can't arrive to the Ministry of Interior. And it's become the street of death in the revolution. And in the same time also, the Islamists, they was not part from this movement. And it's mean this street, it's a clear revolution, you know, without any confusing or without mixing between what is where the Islamists in this moment, since November 2011 until November 2013, we occupy the street to present only all the news, most of the martyr. Like what I told you, I try to make it as a newspaper, more information, more like to ask the people to come, because the media in this time, they say, no, don't go to this street, it's a lot of people, they are not part from anyone, and they kill only the people and not the police, not the military. But what I try to do to just make the people interesting to come to the street. And even in the fight, I was painting. And I found the people, maybe they are not part, they don't like to fight with the police, but they like to be behind the wall to look at the graffiti. In this moment, I give them a chance to know the truth, what's going on in this street. Even the fight finish, the street, it's stay like 2 years, like a museum of the revolution. It's the last visual memory, maybe until now in Cairo, to can make people remember what's happened, and it was true, because what they try to make us believe that's not happened. Nothing happened in 2011. Forget about it. It's no revolution.
But your paintings tell otherwise.
But all what we try to do to just keep our visual memory about this revolution. And never mind, because the graffiti, it's a museum in the street, but it doesn't matter if it's getting clean after 2 months or 3 months, because we document it. And a lot of books speaking about about the revolution, but explain the revolution by the reaction of the artist in the wall. Or not only the artist, because anyone, he can use the wall. It's open for anyone to just use the wall to write his information or to write his reaction about what's going on.
So it's an open source
Always.
dialogue. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to the issue of fear, you were personally injured. Your piano was burned by militants. How did this fear impact your music?
Not only I, my friend, he sung with me in the street. He's killed and loses the hand, loses the legs, and my brother from 3 years present. Maybe he is die. My only one brother. My photograph in Yarmouk camp, he is present from 1 year. The man he make the text, he is killed from shooting in the head. One from children with a sniper, it's killed. It's not easy, but when I go out from the home, I talk to my wife. Yeah, bye bye. Maybe I will not back, but I don't. I make it good things. I don't fighting. I need to play piano, and she understand things and pushed me.
Thank you.
And I feel very shame because I coming alone and she stay there. She fighting now alone. She artist, but she fighting
your
in the
wife.
home.
And what are the chances of her coming to Germany?
Yeah, you have to take it a lot of law and a lot of
So time,
paper
so
and a lot.
it's
Yes,
being
time,
processed.
maybe
Yeah.
1 year, maybe
Yeah.
1 year, 6 months. But how the people can wait in Syria and in the hill 2 years or 1 year for make it Familia Nachtzug. I know only this means in Germany, Familia Nachtzug. Because you have to speak in Ausländerbehörde. It's two means.
Now, Ahmed, you told me earlier that you fled numerous places because they became too dangerous because of war. How would it impact your art if you were, or your comedy, if you were living in a place that was completely free? Would you still be making fun of the government?
If I live in a place?
Yeah, let's say, well, let's take Germany, although we'll get to Germany in a minute, but, or another country, a fictional country, let's say that where the government was completely democratic and human rights were uplifted. How would that impact
I know that
your
country,
show?
it's Iraq.
That's your country?
Yeah, it's Iraq. It's
Yeah.
fully free. Okay, I think I will continue the same thing, because I guess this is what I was born to do, to make fun of people, actually. No, just to do a satire show. I love this kind of show. Let's say I don't know, إلهامي ما أعرف شنو بالإنجليزي whatever. Huh? My inspiration was Jon Stewart since I was young. So I always want to do this kind of show, and I find it the best way to fight back, to, let's say, not revenge, but to fight the extremists. Let's say Shia, Sunni, militias, ISIS, any extremist, any violence, any corruption in the country. I think when you put him in a satire show, it will hurt him more than you just curse him, and maybe more than you fight him by guns. I think it's the best way, and I still do the same in any country that I do.
Well, of course, as you know, the Jan Böhmermann case recently brought up the issue of freedom of speech and satire in Germany, with him making fun of Erdogan. And that's my question to you, gentlemen who maybe aren't involved in satire as such, but how free or open do you feel practicing your critical art in Germany?
Well, I feel quite free, because I mean, when I hear all their stories, I feel like I'm completely spoiled, you know, like all the hardships I had to fight against seem compared to what your story is like nothing. But then again, everybody has their own reality, right? Because everybody looks to their own eyes and feels with their own emotions. But like, I don't have the feeling that any German government official or whatever, you know, nothing would happen. I mean, my last single is called Klopapier, and the chorus implies that my toilet paper is yellow, what's the Schwarz-Rot-Gold, black,
Red and gold, yeah.
gold, green, and red. So the German flag, and nothing happens when I do that, you know. Like, so I mean, of course there are some comments online, but there's no real repercussion for what we do here artistically until it gets probably to a terrorist threat level or so. Then they would probably knock at my door, but until then it's very feels like we live in a kind of paradise compared, you know, like, because there is censorship on some level here, but it's very sublime, and it's not in your face, and there's no aggressive power behind those forces for people like me, at least, you know. I mean, they don't have no way to attack you on that level, you know.
Do you agree, Fetzum?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's thinking back on how we grew up, especially in the 80s, you know, and with our, let's say, or with my African background, you know, it was more on a, maybe, if you want, on a psychological level, but not on a physical one, you know. So I think we're pretty much free to do it, but it's interesting because, I don't know, 15 years ago, my professor asked me, Fetzum, you use the word free and freedom a lot, so what does it mean to you, you know? Because you use it a lot as a poetic kind of expression, but what does it mean to you? And I couldn't, you know, really answer back because I had this idea of what freedom is, you know. But a few years later, I talked to him again. I said, like, hey, I guess I have the answer. And it's, you know, basically, I think like everyone in the world is free to choose what he does with his life, you know, no matter where you grow up. And but it also means that you have to be able to take the responsibility and the reactions for that. So, and this is always up to you, you know. So no matter where you live, of course, I don't think that only in countries where you really have to fear physical threat but also a psychological threat and maybe repression in a certain way where you're not encouraged to express what you really think. So I think we still have a way to go, and we need to use art and humor and media in order to promote that.
Well, with the rise in Germany in recent months and even years, really, of the far right, I mean, do you feel a backlash from society, perhaps not from an oppressive government, but from society to some of the work that you're doing? And how does that impact you?
Yes, of course. I mean, like, fear is always a bad consultant, So, and you can see like how people, even growing up in a freer world, are easily intimidated. And it's always interesting what it brings out. Of course, like if we talk about a party like AfD here in Germany, to me, AfD is not a threat. It's just, just a mirror, and you can see like, hey, look, there's some kind of action. People think in a certain way. Maybe you have to act up and try to explain something that is not only an alternative, but maybe the right way to see things. But you need to get and pick up the dialogue and not demonize anyone. It's about confronting, because these are people, these are human beings, and we need to remind them that people has to be treated humanely, and that's music is a fantastic promoter for that.
Yeah. Well, we've heard. Go ahead and clap for that. We've heard how art can actually change the constellation of governments, can touch children on the streets of Syria. But what are the limitations of art? I think we can all agree that art is not the only thing that can change the world. So where does art stop, and when do artists need to partner with other people and other, perhaps, organizations in working towards change? Amar, where do you see the limitations of art? When is art maybe not enough to bring about change? Or do you feel that you as an artist need to partner with others?
No, actually, I don't understand actually now what's the meaning of art or artist, because I actually, a lot of things change now, and I have problem with some words like, I don't know, but what I try to do, to just use my experience only to share with the people. I didn't say that's art. The people, they say you are artist and that's art, but it's okay. But I just share my experience with the other, and I accept what they try to, how they return back this experience. That's it.
Now, Sammy, you have a foundation supporting underprivileged kids. You're very involved in a whole variety of issues, quite a strong media presence. You're definitely someone who I see as partnering with other organizations, other realms of society. Where do you see the limitations of music in bringing about change?
Well, my whole social engagement, is that a word? Yeah. Started after a few years of me. Like I had this song early in my career that was a very vocal about me saying Germany is my nightmare and please wake me up from it. And after that I was in a lot of talk shows and kind of became a spokesperson for that young generation and this hip-hop culture and people with migration background this year. And after a while I got all these requests from like Deutsche AIDS Stiftung, like to be the spokesperson and kind of, do campaigns for or against some causes. And I felt compelled to do it, and I had to do it. But also on the other hand, doing it, I felt it's not activism, when you're famous anyway and you go to a photo shoot and you sit there for 5 hours and somebody takes a picture of you, and then your activism is that your face hangs in every city with a slogan on it, like wear a condom or something. It's nice and it's a good gesture, but it doesn't feel like activism really. And within those constructs, sometimes I try to engage the people that were organizing it, like, hey, let me talk to people, let me go in schools, and they were like, no, we're just gonna do the posters, and like, there's a lot of money in a lot of these social things, and it's kind of like a mafia in itself, I feel, with a lot of these organizations, and everybody's acting like they're fighting for a good cause, but then mainly, I think it's also about protecting their own territory and
looking good,
yeah,
looking like they're doing something good.
Then I started my own organization and just doing what I know how to do best, because I don't know how to fight racism. I don't know how to improve a school system, really. I can tell you what sucks with it, but I still don't have a solution. But then I thought, like, what helped me in my life is like this influence of hip hop, this culture that is so multifaceted, that has an art form, a dance form, a music form, a poetry, and the fashion and everything. And so I started giving workshops in schools, and got a lot of my friends involved, like the graffiti writers who do the graffiti workshops, the breakdancers do the breakdance workshops. I did the rap workshops, and then slowly started finding more comfort in that real activism than just that celebrity, you know, like you can take a picture of me and put some nice message next to it, but that's not really helping anybody. I feel always better and more rewarded when I can really talk to people and feel that my words really have an impact when I see the listener, you know. And
like right here today.
Yeah.
Getting back to dialogue. Yeah, go ahead.
It must be a big difference. Like, my son is 5 years old now. He was born here in Berlin, in Germany. And for him, growing up in Germany, he's going to have a total different perspective, you know, and maybe saying also, like, yes, I'm German, you know. It has always been like a conflict for us. I mean, I was born in Egypt, my parents from Eritrea. I came here though when I was 5 years old, so like I was socialized in Germany for the most part of my life. So I think if I had the chance to be 5 years or 10 years old again and have someone like Sammy come up to my school and giving workshop, that would be amazing, you know? So because it would like give me a total different perspective and outlook on my future and what is possible in the place where I'm living at. So it's not, of course, for us sometimes you're totally right, you know, like being able to give your visual and with a nice message on it. And I totally understand why this is not activism for you in some sense, but for me, or as a youth, or as just a regular person, to see that and say like, hey, wow, Sammy is standing behind that message, might empower me and inspire me to do things, you know, and encourage me, what I don't necessarily find in my direct circumstance. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's important work, but I totally applaud to the mind of Sammy, of course, of saying like, okay, but it doesn't stop there, it just starts there. So even with culture, we just offer something, we just offer a platform and hope that a lot of people are gonna, you know, feed off of that.
Well, speaking of your son, that brings me to my last question before we move on to your questions. And that is, all of you bring a vision for your particular country, or maybe multiple countries where you've lived. What vision do you have? What do you want to see in your country in the next 10 years? So let's say by the time your son is 15, what kind of Germany do you hope that he'll be living in?
Yeah, so I totally believe in investing into the world in which you want to live. So I hope he will be able to, whatever he is, you know, to live that comfortably, you know, to be able to speak his mind without having to have like the fear of being repressed. No matter what sex he follows, no matter what social standard he is in, no matter what he chooses to be. So, and of course, I think that's my form and vision of paradise. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I am moving back to you. Where do you see your country in 10 years?
The freedom will coming because I see Deutschland before 70 years. It's broken, and now have it freedom land. And Syria will be maybe after 5 years, we hope, after one minute, we hope, after 10 years, we'll back the peace for Palestine and Syria and all the land in Middle East. I see the art and it's stop with terror. When have it terror and the art, it's a stop. You don't can complete with terror, with the art. And I see only we need to love each other and talking to each other and don't have it border between us, and all the thing good the hope will come and the freedom will come.
Amar, where do you see Egypt in 10 years? Or would you like to see Egypt?
My country?
Yes.
I think I always say we win already, but it will take some time. And I mean, since we start in 2011, and I always have this, I trust we already win. But of course, they will never leave us maybe next to 20 years until we can really have a very strong underground, and then we can start to do something in the country. And I always have hope to work. That's why until now I'm still in Egypt. And yes, of course, all of us, we hope that we have freedom in our country and all the dictatorship to be away. And actually, the art, it's one from the most important things because they don't have this tool everywhere around the world. All the dictatorship, they don't have this art tool. Yeah.
Ahmed, what do you hope for Iraq in the next 10 years?
What do I hope?
Yeah, what do you hope to see in Iraq? What changes do you hope will have occurred in 10 years?
My hopes are different from reality. So let's say my hopes.
Yeah.
My hopes is people to accept each other and people to understand there is different religions, different sects between people. It's very normal. We have it all over the earth, so it's not only in us. And even the one religion has parts, so we start to accept each other, all the parts, and we start to deal with people as a people, not a religion. We deal with people as their religion, not as their humans. If we did that, I think we will be much better. But for the truth, we will not.
Well, that's another question. Sammy, what do you hope for Germany in 10 years?
Well, I think Germany has a very delicate history with this whole racism topic, and that's what always makes this dialogue so difficult. You know, like in the last few months when I had my promo run for my album, and I had these songs, you know, about me and Klopapier and stuff, and people ask me then, like, yeah, and aren't you shocked that the AfD is getting so many voters, and everybody's like acting like this is something new, but it happens every time, you know, like the society gets scared, you know, and of course right now with this whole migration thing, there is also a reason for them to be scared because nobody really has answers what all these people are going to do. Are they going to have jobs? And so, you know, for me it's not really shocking, and I think it's just very important to keep that dialogue open on as many fronts as possible. And I think it's going to be hard, but then on the other level, I also, what Fatsam just said, with the kids, they grew up here so different, because I don't know how it was for you, but for me, I don't want to say fucking traumatized, but I'm fucking traumatized from growing up here in this country, you know, like I had a lot of self-worth issues my whole life and was just called, you know, was kind of like the only brown-skinned kid growing up, you know, till I was 15. I didn't know any other black people, and I got treated so differently and awkwardly, and also I think that's going to be better for the kids now, you know. There's a lot more growth in that sense because it's just getting more diverse. I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, but at least like in the cities of Berlin and Hamburg and all these big melting pots, kids grow up nowadays and they don't know what the N-word means, you know, like little black kids. Some of them are lucky enough not to be called that every day. And so I do see some hope, but I also see a lot of resistance, because in Germany I didn't encounter, or my worst racism experiences are not with Nazis, but like with people that actually think that they are open-minded Germans and totally open, and then as soon as you start with them, you see their own fear of being called a racist is bigger than their willingness to accept some things and really move forward, you know. Like, I think this country is very traumatized, and it needs actually more than dialogue. It needs psychological treatment, but I don't know how that works for 100 million people at the same time. Maybe Deutsche Welle can get a...
Where we come in with our music, you know. So
Exactly.
Absolutely. So what Sammy's saying only shows that, I mean, we called our festival Piece by Piece Festival. So because it means, of course, it comes only through peace, but it's also like a step-by-step process, you know. So nowhere in the world we have like an ideal situation, you know. So it's always like, as you said, Germany 70 years ago. A lot of people now here in the room don't know that if they don't open up history books. But if you talk to some people who are 80 years old today or 90 years old and who have seen Germany going from, let's say, 1920 to almost, or 1930 to 2016, that's like, this country is a different country now, you know, within one lifetime. So my parents where they come from, Eritrea. It has been an Italian colony from 1891 to 1951. Then 30 years of war against your own people, Ethiopia, and now it has been under the same president since 1992. So if you talk to people, if I talk to my grandmother, she might have a different perspective, So we're, if I can pick on the word, we're fucking free here in Germany, So the only thing that we have is like psychological issues, but if we say like that's the only thing, that's a big task nowadays. So I only heard that in Central Africa there are like 2 organizations run from Africa that one is called, I don't know, I might be wrong, Adapter Swede, and one is called Adapter Italian, because in Italy the rate of people with depression is very high. So they say like, hey, come on to Africa, live with us for 2 weeks, depression will go
That's
away,
brilliant.
So I think
So
that's a great idea.
Start Adopt a German.
So I think like, hey, whatever we do, whatever the situation is, that's why I say like freedom is the highest form, or to want freedom is the highest form of taking responsibility for the situation you're in. You don't have to wait for any politician. You don't have to wait for not even your parents to say if it's right or wrong to do what you do. You have to do what you do and take responsibility for it. That's it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So now you have the opportunity to ask questions, both from your seats, there'll be a microphone going around, or of course you can use the Global Media Forum app, log into this particular session and post your question there. My colleague Felix will be watching out for the app to see if any questions come in there. But before that, let's see if anyone has a live question they'd like to ask. Yes, right here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation and what you have been saying so far. I celebrate you for the various works you're doing in your various countries. I do have a question. What do you think, for all of you, what do you think is the role of female artists in fostering dialogue and changing politics? And is there a presence of female artists in your various countries?
With our all-male panel.
Yeah.
Good question. Anyone? Ahmed?
I'd love that very much. We need, in Middle East, we have the problem of dealing with the female artists, especially in like everything. But now we're getting better. I think female taking role is much better than before. They understand that they can change, and we have a lot of female that are doing very good. I think in Egypt there's a lot of females are great. But in Iraq, it's closed society. We have few, like maybe 100, between 34 million. So.
Yes, I agree. Maybe in Egypt the situation is a little bit better, and also it's not only artists. Actually, our revolution is more spurred by the woman. We have a lot of sign about this, and until now, actually, the woman in Egypt is more strong than men. Especially in 2016, actually.
Okay.
They start in 2016 to celebrate the revolution with a girl, her name Sana Saif. She went to the street with herself, and she just write in her back, the revolution of January still exists. And it was another also image. I really always try to save this kind of visual memory. It was a girl, she will go to married, and they catch her husband before 1 week for the wedding, and then he's in jail now maybe for 15 years or maybe 25 years. But she went to the demonstration by the wedding dress, and she make like unbelievable image for hope, and she will be waiting, and he will be free, and the life it will continue. I mean, it's not only female artists. I didn't speak about artists because I don't care about this meaning, but I speak about how they are really the symbolism of the revolution.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think, I always was wondering in my head why, like, I think the status that females have reached in German society, I know a lot of very strong career-minded women that also can balance with the family thing and everything, and somehow in the artist world I think it's a little less, right? Like I think a lot of times when I meet female artists, I'm confronted with them kind of, they got into the business and everything was always done by men, you know? Some men wrote the lyrics, some men told her, there's the vocal booth, go in there and sing, here's the arrangement. And
especially in the rap scene, right?
yeah, in the rap scene it's even worse because there most of the girls are kind of attract that sexual image, or you know, kind of get down to the most basic fact how you can sell yourself as a woman. Next to prostitution is like being like a female rapper over here, and it's kind of sad. I wish that there are more. There would be also the same development that women have made in society in general in the music world, because I feel like a lot of women are not really artists here, but kind of like puppets that are trained by men, you know, and it's not as far as it should be. But I think it's also needs some good men to not be the ruler, but also show them how to just get to be an artist, you know. I don't know how that worked for men more naturally somehow, but a lot of women are not so free in that
support
artistic
system, you mean, for developing women artists? Yeah.
And also, like, I mean, we're talking about a general issue, you know, so a global issue. It's not, you know, before we speak about art, we should speak about the role of women in society in general. So I guess when that balances in the right way, things like being an artist or a female CEO or, you know, some kind of, you know, president, chancellor, as we see it in Germany. I mean, who would have thought of having, like our government before, with Philipp Rösler and Westerwelle and Angela Merkel, having a woman as a chancellor, having someone who's gay as our foreign minister, and Philipp Rösler, what is his background? Filipino or Vietnam?
I think he's
Filipino. So okay, so having that as a government in Germany, like only in the, let's say, mid-80s, that would have been impossible to imagine. So coming back to you, I mean, like it's really possible also in Iraq. You know.
So
you know,
your vision for
see
your
that,
country in
see
10
that
years
change,
maybe,
exactly.
maybe can become reality.
Maybe I'm more an optimist, you know, but no, but things, I mean, like, you know, 10 years, of course, 10 years is nothing, but 20, 30 years is like a big change is possible.
More questions? Any questions from the audience? You guys answered everything already.
Yeah, my question goes to Fizum.
There he is.
Fizum, you said your parents come from Eritrea, and I am from Ethiopia. And you know the situation in Eritrea, and also this border conflict between Ethiopia and Eritrea. So what are you doing in terms of bringing that to the forefront to make others know about it? Are you using your music, your art, your talent to make others know, to come to know about it? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. That's a great question. First of all, what I'm actively doing is outside of the continent of Africa, outside of Ethiopia and Eritrea. First of all, I was raised, no matter on what the conflict was, I was raised that there's no way to judge, even as Eritreans, Ethiopians, because my mother, my father brought me up that we're brothers and sisters. So what we are promoting here outside of, or living in Europe and maybe moving between the US and Europe, is that the old issues shouldn't be the issues for a new generation, you know. So I always think like children can always overcome the boundaries of old conflict. So this is what I'm trying to promote through my music and wherever I go, and people come to my concerts. So I look at that. You know, as a musician, you have a privilege to, most of the time when you play live, to stand on a stage and you have like an overview of all the people who are in the room, and you see like there will be people who maybe outside of this room wouldn't have anything to do with each other, but they all come to the same place to get the same energy. So this is what we have in common. So I applied that to Eritreans and Ethiopians as I do to maybe Austrians and Swiss, you know? So this works for me all the time. And wherever I can, and in a situation like this, I always hope, I even have a bigger concept, because if we talk about countries, even like the idea of having borders, to me that's like really anachronistic, you know. I don't think like people need borders. Maybe we need some kind of, you know, regions to be able to tell where we live, but I don't think that should be like a mental border.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you.
In the app, any questions come through?
Yeah, we've got one from
This will be
Renas
our last
Hassan.
question.
Yeah, from Renas Hassan Babakir from Iraq, which is very much connected to the first question, actually. And it goes to you, Kate. Why is there no female artist in this session?
Oh, I'll have to ask the organizers of Global Media Forum on that. But I'm very glad we had the question on female artists in your respective countries as well. So I think that was very interesting, and I'm representing the female section on the panel. So no other questions in the app? Then I'd like to thank all of you for your questions, for coming today for this discussion on culture and arts in fostering dialogue and political change. And a very special thank you to our fantastic guests, not only for inspiring us with your art, but also in particularly with your courage. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the Global Media Forum.
And many thanks to Kate Muser as well. It's time for a break, everybody. In the foyer, eClay is holding a press conference, and at the interactive corner, you can learn some sign language and do a special round of speed networking. Enjoy.